1. Hey, college wrestling fans, it's JT1Wrestle. Here a while ago, I sat down with the Swayze, and we thought of all of the teams in the NJCAA that we would like to see add wrestling. And now we're going to move on. We also talked about all the teams we wanted to see in the NAIA we wanted to see add wrestling. And now we're going to be moving on to NCAA Division III. We both come up with 10 programs that we would like to see college wrestling at for both men and women. And ironically enough, we both have a tie. So it'll kind of be like we're doing 10 teams. We're only going to mention 9 because we both have a tie in here. So I'm going to start off with my number 10 pick. My number 10 pick is Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. And I say this for a couple of different reasons. First off, there's no reason at all why St. Louis shouldn't be thought of and seen as a wrestling city. Okay? That's my first reason. Reason number 2, Washington belongs to the University Athletic Association, which is probably not only an NCAA Division III, but also and throughout the entire collegiate wrestling scene, the most prestigious academic conference in all of wrestling and all of sports, actually. Right now, we only have 3 teams in the UAA that have wrestling. That's Case Western Reserve, New York University, and the University of Chicago. But they do hold a yearly tournament. It is actually the smallest conference tournament in all of wrestling, but it's a great tournament with great competition. They're very enthusiastic about it, but I think we need a 4th team in there, and I think Washington is a team to add. Lastly, I'll say this about Washington. As a school, they have won 26 NCAA Division III titles. Might as well add wrestling, right? That's my opinion for my number 10 pick. How about you, Swayze?
Get ready. We have not planned. We don't know anything about each other's list. At number 10 for me, Washington, St. Louis, Missouri. And, you brought up a good point. St. Louis absolutely should be able to keep wrestling. The problem is the amount of programs that have been cut kind of in the vicinity. You look at Truman State, you look at St. Louis Merrimack, you look at Lindenwood, Fontbonne. These are all schools that, I just named 4 different divisions. There was D2, Lindenwood is transitioning to D1, Merrimack JUCO, and then Fontbonne D3. They should be able to, in such a big city, be able to keep a wrestling program. But heck, that city can't even keep an NFL franchise. So it makes me wonder, is it the atmosphere, the area, or is there something deeper that we don't know? But I am with you 100%. Washington should be one of the D3 programs to add.
So we were talking earlier about having a tie, and my number 9 pick is my tie, which ironically I have a feeling is probably yours too. But so my number 9 pick, and the reason why this is a tie is they go hand in hand with each other. I'm going to go with both Montclair State as well as the University of Rutgers at Newark. So we're not talking Rutgers D1, we're talking Rutgers D3 here. So let me talk about Montclair State first. Montclair State, bar none, no arguments, no dispute, is the absolute best NCAA Division III program that we have lost. We're talking multiple All-Americans, multiple national champions, 10, count them, 10 top 4 NCAA Division III team finishes, including winning 2 team titles. Now let's also keep in mind, Keene just reinstated their wrestling program recently. So that's another person within their area, within their conference. And then we also have nearby Jersey City has a great program. The College of New Jersey has been one of the top NCAA Division III institutions in wrestling for, ever since I was a kid, probably way long before that too. And they're all part of the New Jersey Athletic Conference. Now I'm going to put New Jersey people. I'm gonna put them on the spot here for just a second. New Jerseyans, and I've been around a lot of them because I have family that lives in Goshen, New Jersey, so I know all about it. They like to brag the same way that people from Ohio like to brag, the same way that people from Pennsylvania like to brag. And you know what? If we were to add back Montclair State Wrestling and also reinstate the program at Records Newark, I have a feeling that would give New Jersey people all the more reason to brag because I guarantee you it wouldn't take either team very long to be within the ranks in the NCAA Division III.
Nice, nice. And tie wise, I guess Washington was my tie for ninth with this other team. Now, I'm going out on a limb because I like quirky, I like weird, I like mascots. And what would be more cool than to go out to the West Coast and add the University of California, Santa Cruz Banana Slugs? What the heck kind of mascot is that? It is awesome. You wouldn't have it anywhere else in college wrestling. And plus, you add into the fact Division III school, they are one of the largest enrollments of all Division III schools. And when you look at D3, just in wrestling, there's over 120 some programs, almost to 130. So you double that. I mean, you're looking 240, even upwards of possibly 300. They have a 20,000 individual enrollment. That's bigger than some D2s. That's bigger than some D1s. And I just think the resources potentially could be there. And California could really succeed with a D3 program. When I think about some programs that have added wrestling at the D3 level in the last few years, one of them comes to mind, and I have a hat for him. This SU stands for Shriner University. They did the NCAA thing for a few years, were pretty successful, and now I believe they've already had a D3 All-American and so much more good things. And so that's why I pick University of California, Santa Cruz, the Banana Slugs. But before I get too far away from the Shriner thing, Shriner is located in Kerrville, Texas, which we know was recently just bombarded with the horrific flooding. And so I know our thoughts and our prayers are with them. And I have talked with one of their coaches, and it seems like most of their wrestling family is doing okay. But we'll keep abreast on that. And if anything develops where we need to help out some wrestling folks, we certainly will.
I agree with you 100% on that. Right before the flooding happened, I sent a email down trying to get a interview with Austin Cooley, which is the individual you were talking about that became their first ever NCAA Division III All-American. They also had a really cool fact about Cooley. He was the only loss that the national champion last year had. So I feel that, Cooley's got one more season of wrestling left. I think, like, think about it, with the tragedy that's going on there right now, if Cooley were to be a national champion next year, what a story that would make.
Yeah, huge, absolutely huge. Rally around the community and all that.
I agree 100%. Um, Moving on here, my number 8 pick, and I honestly don't know how we are supposed to say this because I found pronunciations a million different ways. I think here in the United States we call it Gallaudet, but I think if I was from France, it'd be pronounced Gallaudet. It's a deaf and hard of hearing university. And to me, it makes sense to have wrestling there. I mean, why not? They had a good program at one time. They produced qualifiers and NCAA Division III All-Americans, and they were dropped. And I really have never seen a good reason for their discontinuement in the 2004-2005 season. Now, I'm going to put wrestling as a whole on the spot here. Wrestling likes to brag about anybody all the time. We have all these, these marquees and these posters and people going around saying, wrestling is for everybody. Well, if it's for everybody, it ought to be for every single disability as well, right? So that has to include the deaf and hard of hearing, which is what Gallaudet is all about. So we're located in Washington, D.C., which is an area that has a lot of, the Maryland area around around that area has a lot of great college wrestling, a lot of great college wrestling programs. I think it'd be a really, really great place to add a D3 program.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and mention them as well. They were in my top 10. I think the DC area is excellent to add wrestling, to possibly unify some people in that area that are kind of uh, pretty much wrestling each other up on Capitol Hill. Um, the wrestling is for everyone mantra. It makes me think of that too. And I remember Gallaudet, or yeah, however you say it. I think it is Gallaudet.
Well, yes, then they just gave you sign language.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, but they were tough. They were real
Yeah.
tough. They were around in the early 2000s, and yeah, I like that pick a lot. So I will agree with you on that, and we can move on to the next one.
All right. So number 7 for good old JT1 Wrestle. I'm going to go with Minnesota Morris. We're talking about a school that produced 1992 Olympic silver medalist Dennis Kalowski. And most importantly, this is where women's college wrestling got its start. Okay. Now, we are in a time, a wonderful, great, prosperous time of watching women's wrestling grow and succeed at levels that I wish it would have been at 25, 30 years ago, right? It makes me sick. I mean, literally, it makes me sick to my stomach that while Iowa and North Central and other programs are having phenomenal success with women's wrestling, which I love, I absolutely love that. Minnesota Morris no longer has a team. This is where it started, man. This is the birthplace of women's wrestling. And to make a point further, we're talking about Olympic silver medalist Sarah McMahon, and two-time world bronze medalist Sally Roberts. When you tell me that Minnesota Morris, I mean, not only, I want them to have men's wrestling too, don't get me wrong. But when you tell me Minnesota Morris does not have women's wrestling, that's like telling me that Hershey got rid of all their chocolate.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, they were a pioneer, and then sometimes you wonder if it's being too soon to the party, and then everybody joins later. Hopefully, it's one of those things that they reevaluate and possibly bring back. I think of a junior college that had women's wrestling before it was cool, and that was Neosho County Community College. I mean,
That's
one of their
true.
alums went on to be a bronze medalist as well, and so it's frustrating to see, the pioneering entities, some of them, no longer have anything. But this would be the time to reemerge. So yeah, I do like that. I'll transition into a college I actually competed against. Used to see this team show up to the Central Missouri Open, and keep in mind back then the D1 schools, they didn't just hide their guys to just duels. I remember one year we go to the Central Missouri tournament, and Oklahoma State, Iowa, Illinois, Mizzou, Oklahoma, and Iowa State all decided to show up, which was a real thrill for me, let me tell you. I lucked out though, and didn't have to wrestle any guys from there. But I do remember a program that was always showing up, always gritty, and that is Illinois College. Um, and I just liked him because first and foremost, out of the state of Illinois, there are so many programs, both D3, JUCO, even D1's got a good amount, that I don't think it would be too bad for them in this climate now for a lot of traveling. They could probably stay within a 3 hour radius, not have to spend a lot of money, and be able to get in some pretty decent kids. I mean, you're right there, Illinois, Iowa, um, you know, parts of Missouri and some other states that surround you, that they should be able to do okay right away. And if they have the right hire, they could even qualify a few guys, possibly some All-Americans in the first few years. So Illinois College is my pick.
I like that pick a lot. I'm trying to remember, is that in Chicago?
I believe it's pretty close. I'll look that up.
No, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. I was curious about that because here in about so I just had Steve Marianati on the program here a while back, and he was telling me, he said if I could to try to make a like a weekend out of like a couple of days, like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing in Chicago this year if I can. And I didn't even realize it until he told me, but you have the University of Chicago, you have Wheaton College, you have um, Elmhurst, where he coaches at. Then you have North Central College, you have Joliet. Like he named like seven programs where if you started in one area, it's like a half-hour drive, then a half-hour drive, then a half-hour drive. It's like that's perfect for a college wrestling fan like me, right? Like go to a duel, drive a half hour, go to another duel. You know what I mean? So, I that's what made me think that Illinois College was also in that area as well.
Well, and I just looked it up, and a little bit of a surprise to me, and this might benefit a school we mentioned earlier in Washington, Missouri. Illinois College is just straight north of St. Louis by an hour and 40 minutes. So it's 3 almost 4 hours from Chicago, but it'd be interesting to be in that kind of neck of the woods. It's straight across on 72 from a former program, Hannibal LaGrange area. So
And you said, well, dear Lord, man, you say former program. They announced back in February that they
yep.
were going to reinstate the wrestling program, which got me excited because I have a cousin that lives in Hannibal, Missouri, and I thought, you know what? What better thing to do than to plan out a visit down to go see him, see a duel at the same time, And not only that, but we're talking about the area, right? Hannibal
Yep.
LaGrange is like what 25 minutes from Quincy University over in Illinois. So
Yeah.
you could Quincy duel in Quincy and turn around and go to Hannibal LaGrange, but I don't know what the status is on that. I hope we hear something positive soon, but who knows? So my next pick is going to be Grinnell College in Iowa. We're talking about a school with a $2.5 billion endowment. Now, if you're from the Midwest, in particular, if you're from Iowa, you know that Grinnell College is Iowa's Ivy League school. It seems to me they have every single sport for men and women but wrestling, which is weird. We're in the state of Iowa and we don't have a wrestling team at a college. Now, I don't know for sure. I can't prove this, but you know that I'm an historian, right?
Yep.
I believe that Grinnell College may have very well been the first wrestling program to ever have a black head coach. I don't know if that's an absolute fact, but one of their coaches was a black man, and he was a coach a long time ago. I can't remember the exact year. I want to say back in the 50s, and I can't think of anybody else that ever would have been a coach at that time. So I think Grinnell College does hold that distinction. Again, I'm not stating that as a fact, but I am going to state that as a very real possibility. Now, let me also say that 1/3 of the students at Grinnell participate in sports. Grinnell basketball is one of the only NCAA Division III schools to be featured regularly on ESPN, which I think is a huge deal. As I said before, they're in a wrestling state. Furthermore, Grinnell is in a wrestling part of the state. Simple as this. Wrestling belongs to Grinnell.
Yeah, it's one of the very few, probably the only D3 without wrestling in Iowa. Maybe there's another one.
You know what? It is the only one.
Okay, I was going to say because the used to be called the Iowa Conference, now it's the American Rivers. Um,
Only
catering catering because there's
wrestling, right?
one
Yeah.
team in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Um, but But no, I like that. I totally forgot that Grinnell didn't have a wrestling program because I just take it for granted that it seems like everybody has one. Um, I'm going to jump into a school that initially I picked because um, it made me laugh. So another one of these things. There's a school down in Abilene, Texas. They are the Cowboys. Made me laugh because growing up in Chapman, Kansas, our rival was the Abilene Cowboys, 11 miles down the road. So I was like, oh, this is funny. But now that I did a little more research, it kind of makes sense. Hardin Simmons University in Abilene, Texas, they are 3 hours north of Shriner. They are 3 hours kind of south and east of Wayland Baptist, and they are 2 hours and 15 minutes from Texas Wesleyan. You want to talk about a team that is centrally located between a lot of others. Heck, they could be like, let's have a quad. They could do something like that. There's such a neutral area. And now with some other schools that have added down in like southern Oklahoma, like Murray State College, they're in a great spot, really, and they could pick up a lot of individuals from a lot of these rural Texas towns that are kind of sandwiched between all these bigger metro areas. So Hardin Simmons University, pretty dang good football school too. I have them as my number 6. So yeah.
So that leaves me at my number 5 then. I do like that pick. Little not number 5 yet, but here a little while later, I got a Texas school on my list too. But for right now, my next pick is going to be one that's kind of personal for me. It's going to be Lawrence in Wisconsin. When I was in high school, Coach Dave Navakis sent me a letter. He was known and well known for this, for recruiting guys whose high school careers didn't turn out the way they wanted. I know I can't remember the name right now, but he had a heavyweight that ended up doing pretty well for him that wasn't going to wrestle in college because he didn't feel he was good enough to wrestle in college. He was in the same qualifier as Garrett Lowney that wrestled for the University of Minnesota, was an Olympic bronze medalist. And so he never made it to the state tournament. So he thought, why should I wrestle in college? And never made the state. And he ended up doing pretty well at Lawrence. I wish I remember the name, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Lawrence is located in Appleton, Wisconsin. And really, you talk a lot about this. It's a prime spot for wrestling. I mean, think about the all the nearby schools in the area. You know, Wisconsin is like Iowa. Like most of the D3 schools in Wisconsin have wrestling. So there'd be plenty of competition nearby for Lawrence to compete with. And although they wouldn't be an official member of the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, I believe they could probably become an affiliate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Wisconsin, you've got so many fun, tough D3 teams. I remember last year turning in to watch Wisconsin lacrosse, and I believe it was Wisconsin Stout
No,
wrestle.
it wouldn't have been Stout dropped their program too.
Oh,
Maybe
uh,
Whitewater?
oh, that's it. You're
Yeah.
totally right. Wisconsin Whitewater, Wisconsin lacrosse, typically top 5 teams, maybe just outside the top 5. Barn burner, came down to heavyweight. So yeah, anytime you could add a Wisconsin program, which you'll hear me mention some Wisconsin programs in a few weeks when we do D1. But yeah, nice pick. I'll go into my 5. Number 5 for me has boasted alums with some big names. Not necessarily in athletics, but man, you talk about some names you could recognize. Ted Danson, Andy Warhol,
Oh,
Kurt
wow.
Vonnegut, Billy Porter, Leslie Odom Jr. These are some big names in the acting world, in the art world. And this school, I'm sure, has a pretty good endowment. It's known a lot for Nobel laureates and other stuff, but it's also in a dang good wrestling city. We got to go to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for Carnegie Mellon University. And I just love the growth in Pittsburgh lately has been huge. Point Park, Division II, adding wrestling. Chatham is adding men and women's wrestling. Well, Point Park did too. Then you've got Penn Highlands Junior College program adding men's and women's wrestling. And by the way, right next door to them is Powerhouse Pitt Johnstown. The Pittsburgh area is growing. And if Carnegie Mellon doesn't jump on the train, they are going to get bypassed, because I know there's been some other ones that I just can't think of right now that have added in that vicinity. And it just makes sense to climb aboard right now while the iron is hot. There in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Carnegie Mellon is my fifth.
So we actually kind of got our countdown wrong because of our tie. That was actually our number 4. Because we both had a tie there earlier, so that's all right. I was never known for being good at math. But anyway, speaking about being good at math, my number 3 pick is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. This was a program that was dropped in the 2008-2009 season for budget reasons. And if you look at their current budget in the 2024-2025 season, I don't think money's an issue there anymore. I really don't. Now, you were talking earlier about how Carnegie Mellon produced some Hollywood actors. Not only did the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT as it's known, produce a Hollywood actor, he was also probably their best wrestler. We're talking about Erlen Van Witff, who was a NCAA Division III national runner-up in 1976. For those of you not familiar with the name, I guarantee you know the face. He had a part in The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can't remember the character's name, but a big, giant, huge, guy that comes after Schwarzenegger that Schwarzenegger has to kill. And then probably his most well-known role was alongside Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor in the movie Stir Crazy. He also had a part in that film as well. And not only that, but he was also a phenomenal opera singer. So moving on from him, let's also talk about this. MIT leads NCAA Division III in academic All-American honors. They've had more academic All-Americans than a lot of the other colleges even combined. And I want wrestling in on that. I want wrestling to be a part of that. I want our wrestlers to have an opportunity to be a part of one of the greatest academic institutions in the nation, not only right now, but of all time. And actually, throughout the entire NCAA, that includes Division II and Division I, they rank within the top 5 of producing academic All-Americans. Now, I realize this is wrestling, and that's what we're focused on, but we're also student athletes. So why not have the opportunity for wrestling to showcase how intelligent and good at academics we are too? So that's my pick, MIT.
Yeah, and MIT right now, they've got a good thing going. 10 wrestlers on their NCAA team, led by head coach Max Lewin. I did not know that off the top of my head. I didn't have a second screen to look up some stuff.
That's impressive.
But I do know the guy you were talking about played Dynamo.
I couldn't think of the name. Yeah.
Oh, such a great movie, the original. I know they're coming out with a reimagining of it, which we'll see. Anyway, all right, my number 4. I'm going to go pretty basic as to
your number 3.
Is it 3?
Yeah, be a number 3.
Oh, I must have missed
the tie.
Oh, I must have missed a team in there. Okay. I'll have to maybe do an honorable mention. So,
Sure.
Colorado College. It's located in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs, you want to talk about resources next door, the Olympic Training Center. You're not too far from a lot of options. You'd be the only D3 program in Colorado that you can really test the waters. Nebraska Wesleyan, many, many miles away, would be the closest opportunity to you. But what's even crazier is you would be the second or third furthest west D3 program, because once you get past the Rockies, it gets a little rocky itself in opportunities. But I like the idea, Olympic Training Center right there, Colorado Springs.
Excellent. So my number two pick, I promised you we were going to go back to the Longhorn State, and here we are. I'm going with Laterno. Located in Longview, Texas, the Yellow Jackets had a wrestling program for well over a decade. And this is something you like to bring up once in a while. They were a part of the National Christian College Athletic Association, and they were quite competitive within it. They produced All-Americans, produced national champions. Um, the only reason Laterno dropped, it wasn't an issue with Title IX, was not an issue with money. They dropped 100% because of travel. That's what made them drop. They didn't have anybody nearby to compete with, and they were having to go all the way to Missouri and all the way to Oklahoma. And, Laterno's, quite a ways down there in Texas. So all these years later, we're still not in a perfect scenario, but it's much better than what it used to be. And this is almost going to sound funny when I say nearby, but if you're a wrestling person, you're going to get it. Within 7 hours or less, so within the 7 hour to probably 5.5 hour range, there are now 10, and I say this with a grain of salt, 10 nearby programs. So really nothing closer than a 5.5 hour drive, but compared to having to get in a car and drive 15 hours to your nearest competition, that's a big difference.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon anymore that 5.5 to 7 hours is nearby. I do want to clarify that because my alma mater, Central Oklahoma, has to drive up to Kearney, Nebraska, and it's at least a 7 hour haul or in that vicinity. And there's some teams that make even a further haul. If you look at Ouachita Baptist all the way to Kearney, that's a that's a whole different level of a drive.
Yeah.
All right, so this should put us at 2, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and any, mini, money, mo. We'll come back and do an honorable mention, I suppose.
Okay.
Okay. I'll put number 2 for me as Hendricks, Arkansas. And the reason why I want this one, there's 3 Division III schools in Arkansas. It's the only one without wrestling. So when we
Yeah.
talk about mileage and driving and stuff, you're the only one without wrestling. And it's been proven you could do well very quick in the state of Arkansas. 49th state in the union to add wrestling in the high school level. But look at the success of Little Rock. Williams Baptist several years ago, probably about a decade ago now, they were the top 3 in the NAIA. You're talking about getting wrestlers that really don't have a lot of bad habits, your better ones, where we've gotten to the point where some of our better wrestlers out there try flashy stuff. Fundamentals are still there. And I think that's why you see some kids do pretty decent out of these Arkansas schools, not world beaters by any means, but I think a school like Hendricks has a lot to offer and would keep kids in the vicinity and in the state of Arkansas. So Hendricks is my number 2.
I'm going to also head down south. Can't head down south more than the University of the South, can we? That's my number 1 pick there in Sewanee, Tennessee. They had a wrestling program from 1955-56 through 1977-1978. They were 7-time conference champions in a conference that no longer exists, but they won 7 conference titles. And honestly, if you've ever been down in that area, Sewanee is a really, really neat place. It's a little itty bitty town. Probably, I don't even know the population. A few houses and a gas station. That's the entire town. And it's surrounded by the college. The college goes in kind of a circle around the town. It's built really, really neat. They have some other great, not wrestling, but they have some other great sports programs there. Nathaniel Owen, which was he was the first black football player at the University of the South. He was a wrestler for the school, and he went on to become the first black judge ever in the state of Alabama, which I think is a very prestigious note to add there. And then my argument is always we need more wrestling programs in the South. They wouldn't be all that. I mean, I realize it'd be a Division I program, but they wouldn't be all that far from Chattanooga. And then they'd have some other programs within a decent distance to them as well. So that's my number one pick.
All right, I'm going to go a quick honorable mention. Honorable mention for me, John Jay College of Criminal Justice. It's in New York, New York. There are a
Yeah.
ton of different programs right there in New York. Also, if you're getting into law enforcement, hey, it might not be bad to know how to take down a perpetrator. So knuckle down. My number one pick used to be a blast. Oh, you got something real quick or no?
No, 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 I really like that pick. I can just imagine the wrestling team coming out to Bad Boys. Can
Oh
you imagine the
yeah.
wrestling team, Bad Boys, coming out? That's what was going on in my head.
Or I know you and I like pro wrestling, Big Boss Man.
Yeah.
That might work for the College of the South though. Um, my number one pick. We talked about NCCAA earlier. Bring them back, bring them back. Maranatha Baptist out of Wisconsin totally makes sense when you look at the pedigree of that school. You have Ben Peterson, 27 years as the head coach there, National Coach of the Year several times, outstanding wrestlers at the national tournament, at the NCCAA tournament, which they had until the late 90s. Jim Grunwald, you might know that name. John Bruner, Jason Kellhofer. You look at the fact that Coach Peterson was a gold medalist in the Olympics. Grunwald, well known for his wrestling and going to the Olympics and world teams. They are in Wisconsin as well. And we already talked about Wisconsin and how things would fit in well there. They would do well. And I think it would also help spur potentially the NCCAA bringing back a form of the national tournament, because when you look at it as well, there that would put the NCCAA schools at about 10 members, which would be
Yeah.
perfect for maybe doing a dual format where you get 5 teams in a pool, 5 teams in a pool, and cross bracket. But Maranatha Baptist is my number one.
Yeah, the Sabretooths, kind of a cool name there as well. I'm going to say this real quick, and then we're going to have to go because we are down to the last minute and 30 seconds of the program today. 2 years ago, I attended the NCAA Division III national championships in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I ran into Ben Peterson there and talked to him for a while. And if you know Ben Peterson, he's the most warm and friendly person you'll ever meet in your life. But I did mention to him, I said, Coach, are we ever going to see Maranatha Baptist wrestling back? And I think that's the first time in my life I've ever seen him get bitter about something.
Mm.
He frowned and he said to me, he goes, it's a lot harder to get something back than it is to start something brand new. And Aaron, I'm not trying to be rude here or anything, but we are down to like the last 42 seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and end this real quick. I'll get a hold of you later about. We're also going to be doing D2 and D1 as well, guys. So if you have a team in NCAA Division III that the Swayze or JT1 Wrestle did not mention that you would like to see back, put it in the comments. And this is a so long from me and behalf of Aaron, the Swayze. I want to thank you for listening today.
Catch you later, man.
Later.